planned for us today. This is amazing. My second time in Sydney. I love this city. I love this country. The first time I was here was February. It was beautiful. It was warm. I was swimming at the beach. And I heard the next time you go in September, it's not going to be so much. But I think there was some false advertising. I think this is amazing weather we're getting today. So, good morning. I'm really excited to be here to talk today about AI. And I think we've heard some very interesting, compelling speeches today that I think make us think. As you've heard so far, Nuix is all about maintaining AI that serves humanity through its people, products, and processes. But more widely, as we just heard, it's getting AI that serves humanity instead of the other way around is really critical. So let's explore what that means to us on a day-to-day basis in the hands of you and me. As the media reminds us daily, AI is a powerful tool that can be transformative, but it's also a tool with some well-publicized fails, like hallucinating court cases, fatal self-driving car accidents, and so on. We could therefore boil the use of AI down to the well-worn Marvel comic adage, with great power comes great responsibility. But in my experience, if we want to avoid putting ourselves, our clients, and our leaders in the original sword of Damocles scenario, we need to get more specific. And that means defining and fully embracing responsible AI for every function and individual in our organizations. And that's the path we're taking here. So what does that responsible AI mean, and where do we start? Simply put, at Nuix, we believe responsible AI means AI that is explainable and defensible for our customers, no matter where or how it's used in a workflow. Effectively, AI that you can trust. That trust comes from giving you choice of models, managed through a responsible AI framework, giving you control over the associated risks and advantages. Now, I divide these models into three groups: Nuix owned, Nuix integrated, and something we're calling customer bring your own. Our starting point, of course, is the Nuix owned capabilities. Let's take a look at that. Consider for a moment how unusual it is in our market, and I would say a distinct competitive advantage, that we own the foundational language models behind our cognitive AI capabilities. This ownership gives us deep first-hand experience in what it takes to make them explainable, trustworthy, and defensible. We know the data sets. We know how the models have been pre-trained. We know who trained them. We understand their architecture, and we've designed policies to maintain and update ethical controls as AI technology and societal expectations evolve. This is a journey. To stay on top of all this, we're committed to the hard work of sourcing appropriate data, navigating the minefield of data privacy requirements, recruiting and hiring the right blend of people to address bias, and ensuring our no-code interface remains accessible to both business experts as well as data scientists. This granular, hands-on approach shapes our responsible AI framework and keeps us self-regulating and grounded through this transformative AI era. But what does this actually mean for our customers? Well, for starters, over 500 natural language processing models come out of the box, which you can quickly specialize, enabling you to perform precision data classification, categorization, fact extraction, things like PII, PHI, risk scoring to meet your unique data challenges, things like rot remediation, breach readiness, early case assessment, investigations, legal review, and so much more. Customers have seen incredible improvements in analytic accuracy and time to value, a 600% reduction in false positives, compounded by pretty solid reduction in false negatives, meaning it's a double win. Not only are we dramatically reducing that data set and the number of documents for review, we're also finding many more documents that would have been missed using traditional methods, often 10 to 20% more. Meanwhile, customer tasks that previously took 6 weeks are now being completed in just 12 hours, with fewer hassles and fewer errors. This is the promise of responsible AI being felt in real-world scenarios. So before we turn our attention to the emerging AI models, I'd like to think about this as we can't build all the technology ourselves. We need to open ourselves to innovate using what's available on the market. It just doesn't scale for us to create all of this ourselves. So when we think about that, let's talk about generative for just a minute, and we just heard some great examples of this. I hear a lot, what's your generative AI strategy? Or why haven't you just jumped in and rushed to market with a generative AI capability? Well, I think we just heard some examples of why we're not rushing to do that. Simply put, the business models, the winners and losers in this space, the risks that come with generative AI, and frankly, the amount of use cases that actually require the generation of new data is just not there. We're not seeing that pull. So why should we put organizations ourselves at risk when we can do so much with the cognitive AI that we have currently with us? And just to show you how things haven't settled out in the generative AI era, the latest thing in large language models, it's called SLM, small language models. This is the latest that we have when we talk about generative AI. And that shows you how rapidly this space is changing and how we just need to be thoughtful about how we do this. So ultimately, our AI charter dictates that AI is not the product. It's an enablement capability that supports and optimizes what we already do really well. And this is a great way for something like generative AI to dovetail and augment what we already do really well with the cognitive and all of our other integrated technologies. Ultimately, it just comes down to the maturity of the product, where we want to plug it into what use case, and the prioritization of you, our customers. In other words, it's not just about driving innovation just for innovation's sake, but ensuring that what we do is a fit for purpose and ensures that we're innovating responsibly. So for some context on some of this, let's put some perspective on it and take a quick look at Nuix's journey thus far with AI. Prior to ChatGPT hitting the public consciousness, or as I call it, hitting us over the head with a bag of nickels, it really feels like that sometimes. Our team had been really stretching the possibilities of AI already for many years to augment the strengths that we already had in unstructured data processing and analysis. Early on, we introduced machine learning to enhance the two bookends of our customer workflows, data processing and evidence review. For the review side, back in 2015, our Nuix Discover team created continuous active learning, or CAL. Maybe some of you have used it. And this leverages machine learning to save review teams time while capturing their domain expertise, improving both accuracy and speed, incorporating the knowledge of the human and also previous coding decisions. On the data processing side, back as early as 2014, machine learning libraries were integrated into the Nuix engine that allowed our law enforcement customers to begin to use things like image detection to accelerate their investigations and drive better outcomes. But in both cases, the goal was increased productivity, reducing manual effort, minimizing repetitive tasks. But then in 2021, we began leveraging more sophisticated cognitive AI to surface data risk and relevance proactively, and prioritizing data for review using our own homegrown language models, things like natural language processing, contextual analysis. And combined with a user interface that allows customers to tailor their models themselves, we're able to achieve a powerful balance between transparency and customer control over the output. This was a step change for our product offerings. It allowed us to evolve our AI from increased productivity to deep data analysis and improved accuracy, things like risk scoring, and to do that proactively, preemptively. Suddenly, it was clear that we could address a wider range of data risk use cases. Case in point, we took part in an intensive Harvard-led research project designed to identify early warning signs of suicidal ideation within the US military, where we were able to put a non-technical military veteran in the driver's seat as our domain expert to optimize a model that outperformed the customer's model they had spent nearly 2 years on. But as exciting as all that was, we recognized that with great power, we need to also have the great responsibility. So we were excited about the outcomes, but knew we needed some guardrails. And this brings us to our responsible AI principles. So no matter where or how our AI models are used in your case, whether it's investigations, legal matters, or data privacy projects, transparency and ethics really matter here. This is what underpins the 5 principles of our responsible AI framework, and it starts with explainability. This means opening up the black box and providing that line of sight to the training data and unique levels of insight into how our results are achieved. Accessibility offers unmatched ease of use, empowering subject matter experts, not necessarily engineers or data scientists, but the people closest to the data that know that data, domain experts, to drive the process, putting the human in control. Specificity is purpose-driven AI that drives measurable real-world results. This improves precision and reduces the risks associated with extreme-scale generalized AI. And finally, fairness, focus on individual rights to privacy with an emphasis on bias mitigation and objectivity, delivering on our promise to be both ethical and accountable. And the last one is safety. The adherence to Nuix's secure protocols with an emphasis on protecting customer data. But also remember, beyond the protocols, our AI is designed to work local, on-prem, even air-gapped within customers' protected environments, which further enhances the safety and security. Now, these principles are the backbone of our AI governance and how we work with our customers and partners to manage commercial and contractual risk. Practicing responsible AI when the world is moving so fast is unpopular. I used to have a lot more hair than this before I started this job. So ultimately, it's just non-negotiable in meeting our customer commitment to customer trust. Now, I just want to spend a moment there to say the world is moving very fast. And I thought of a joke that I heard a couple years ago that I think is really apropos here, especially here in Australia, that people talk about driving cars and how awesome it is that they can go from 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds. But if you've ever gotten a speeding ticket before, you know that what you really need is a car that goes from 200 miles an hour to 80 in 1.2 seconds. And that's really what we're trying to do, is we're trying to put you in a luxury automobile that you look great in, and it goes fast when you need it, but it slows down and it gets you there in one piece, safe and sound. So, happily, far from holding us back, our responsible AI principles are allowing us to reconsider the very boundaries of the technology and our collective relationship with risk. To date, we've worked with our customers to identify not just the data that has the highest probability of being relevant to your case, but data that actually is relevant, with incredible efficiency and forensic accuracy. But what's coming next is super cool. An advanced search made possible by a deep learning framework that we're building into the Neo platform. And this deep learning framework opens up an expanding universe of AI models being created and tuned by our customers, partners, and the open source community. And you're going to hear a lot more about the deep learning framework today and in the coming weeks, I promise you. Now, these models use embeddings or vectors to drive advanced AI capabilities like image analysis, transcription, translation, medical research, insurance underwriting, and infinitely more. Now, for those of you who may have just broken out into hives when I mentioned the term vectors, maybe with some flashbacks to high school math, don't panic, don't run for the exits. In the context of AI, a vector is simply a mathematical representation of an object such as a word or an image that enables the machine to really understand what it's doing, but to do it at scale. Now, by normalizing the data, it's really awesome how this works. Normalizing the data from this unstructured format into the universal language of mathematics, a human no longer needs to join those dots across vast and varied data sets. So a machine can do that for us, clustering the data that closely matches a particular concept. And because I'm a very visual learner, I'm going to take a moment here just to have you either close your eyes or think of it in your mind's eye. When you look in space and you see stars and planets and all that, and you zoom out and you begin to see these clusters, these amazing clusters. Well, if you think about vectors, that's the way the world of vectors or semantic space works, where the things that are like seem to glom together. And if you do a simple math equation, and I'll explain it at a coffee if you want me to later, but if you think about each of the words in a sentence turning into these vectors and then them collecting together in this space, think of this math problem. King minus man plus woman equals, and then there's queen is the obvious answer there. Now, that's the way the computers are trained to think. They don't know anything about any of those words. They just know the math. And once it's in that space, the mathematical calculations happen. And believe me, in that space, queen doesn't get confused with the band queen. right? That's in another part of the galaxy. In there, you take Queen and say, Queen minus Freddie Mercury plus Robert Plant equals, anybody? There we go. There's my Zeppelin fan. All right. Awesome. And then, of course, Mercury is in a periodic table somewhere else, not attached to Freddie. So this is how it works. The computer doesn't understand these things. It's just math. And I stunk at math, so believe me, but it's just awesome stuff. All right, so let's move on. For Nuix users, the first capability that vector-based model will soon enable is called semantic search. Now, this advanced search technique will deliver more relevant results by considering the meaning, as I just explained, behind the query, as opposed to just matching on keywords, which are a little bit more brittle, as you might imagine. So at Nuix, this is particularly exciting because our engine already normalizes this data so well, breaking it down and indexing it better than anybody else, breaking down documents to their most atomic level to ensure that we miss nothing. But now with this vectorized data, the possibilities are endless. It allows us to extend that with conceptual search across languages and content types. This is the power of being able to search for warm clothing and getting back results that include woolly jumper, something that you may never have considered searching for, or being able to search in one language and getting multilingual responses, or that same search across different file types and getting texts, photos, audios, things that relate to that subject. Just imagine the hidden insights that you can now get from looking at all possible items related to a concept. This is where your team can use their smarts to jump in on those gold nugget insights. But it's also where our responsible AI framework really kicks in here. So where Nuix integrates or supports connecting to these third-party models through this deep learning framework that I'm telling you about, Nuix's role is focused on two things. First, ensuring that the results are transparent and identifiable when collated into a broader data set or used in a subsequent part of a workflow. This will look as simple as highlighting the data with different colors or stamping the data with the model source in the metadata. Secondly, ensuring customers are aware when results are provided by non-Nuix AI models. This is what I meant earlier when I referred to that collective relationship we have with risk. So Nuix ensures transparency on the AI-generated results and the source models. Meanwhile, Nuix customers can then comfortably and knowingly adopt AI at their own pace and in line with their own organizational policies. Beyond this first phase of semantic search, further development in this NEO deep learning framework is rapidly expanding to integrate other publicly available large language models, libraries, and techniques. Examples include emerging capabilities like retrieval augmented generation. Basically, that's just a fancy way of saying an AI approach that combines information retrieval with language generation to bring added specificity and reduce some of those hallucinations you've all heard about that language models are infamous for. But also things like text summarization, chatting with your case data, and even auto-generating privilege logs. Trusting the output from these capabilities and relying on them, of course, is a standard part of the workflow. Will have to come from the choice that you make of how you want each step of your workflow faster, smarter, and easier. So it's about that optionality and control. Now, model ownership and transparency to one side. I'd like to close out by summarizing how the results of responsible AI will show up in your daily workflows. Unsurprisingly, given our history, it starts with the data processing pipeline and the existing power of machine learning that I talked about a little bit earlier. And this includes keyword search. Again, keyword search is going nowhere. But as I've spoken about, we have a deep learning model that is here supporting, that thing is going to be filled by the next year, by the next time we do this, right? So it's all started with that data coming in from the left into the processing area where we have our legacy early models, but we also have semantic search, and Stephen's going to show you that next. And it's all based on this deep learning framework. But in the center, with the enrichment capability, this is our owned AI. This is where natural language processing and cognitive AI really it comes with every single NEO solution baked in. This technology does not need GPUs. You can put a non-technical person in front of the computer and make, build, tune, test, validate your own models in a no-code interface. A lot of really cool stuff happening here. But if you're more into the review side of things, then our analysis and review area is where we're really doing some very fun things. Like we're putting NLP into Discover SaaS, and we have an early POC that we're doing with a customer. So wait for some news on that, but we're very excited about some of the early things that we're seeing with Discover SaaS using natural language processing. We're also doing some early testing with continuous active learning and merging that with natural language processing to really drive better results that way as well. So in summary, I think we want to just close out by covering down on a few things regarding how we want to be thinking about this going forward. Ultimately, we want to use technology in a way that supports what your business process is, what your requirements are, and not do AI for AI's sake. And frankly, I share Jonathan's optimism. I know that there's some pessimism in the room, and we need to keep our eyes on all of that. But it's important that we surround our AI with good processes, good people, and good technology. And ultimately, at Nuix, as global leaders in data intelligence and analytics, our AI mission couldn't be more clear. Data is what we do, and responsible AI is how it needs to be done. Thanks for your time, and enjoy the rest of the conference.